The healing ministry, I suppose, really began in June 2005. Prior to that, I'd prayed for a lot of people. Some of them had got iller and others of them had died. It hadn't really worked terribly well. I've been on a team where I was asked to stop praying for the sick. That's how bad I was at it. But in 2005, a man who's become a friend now, an evangelist, visited our church, our small church in Cambridge. And lots of people were healed. And then I'd never seen people get healed in such numbers before. And certainly not in a local church. And at the end of our time, he prayed with me, encouraged me, and after he left, the healings continued in the church. So he wasn't there, but people still got healed at the end of most of the services. This went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And eventually spread to other churches, and we found ourselves traveling to places, praying for the sick, and people recovered. And we were more amazed than anyone was. And for weeks and weeks, this went on. People getting prayer, people being healed. I remember a very early case of a young man whose voice came back, and it was a real shock, really, to see this kind of power. And so after that, we began to get invitations to go to other churches, and we began to see people get healed in other churches outside of Cambridge. And it got to such a point that we actually hit the front page of the Cambridge Evening News, just telling the story that miracles were happening in our Cambridge church. And one or two Christian magazines, Christian periodicals picked it up. And so it kind of began from there. Most unexpected beginning, really. Undoubtedly, the biggest thing I learned is the principle of perseverance. I lay hands upon people a lot and pray for thousands of people. And what I've discovered is that quite often people are not healed straight away. And there's really something about persevering with people, keeping on praying with them. And what I found is if I just keep at it, if I keep praying, some of the most amazing things can take place. I've seen the most extraordinary signs and wonders that didn't happen at first, but I had to press in and see. I've learnt as well that many people are not healed instantly. They're healed over a period of a few minutes, or over a period of an hour, or they come back the next day and they are better. And so I've learnt the principle that sometimes there's a place to kind of press in. And I've learnt, and as if I should have needed to learn this, but I'm afraid I did, that it's really all about God. It's not really about me. So there are times when I feel all spiritual and prayed up and ready, and there are times when I don't feel like that, I just feel tired or even ill myself. But it doesn't seem to diminish God. God seems to always be at the top of his game, and he's the one doing the wonders, not us. We've had just the most fun in praying for people outside of ordinary church settings. An incident that leaps to mind straight away is of a young man, a waiter in a restaurant in Cambridge. And he was our waiter for the evening. At the end, I just got talking to him and discovered he was due to have an operation. He had a problem with his knee. And prayed with him then and there in the restaurant. To my amazement, he ripped his bandages off, he was healed. And I discovered later on, just a few weeks later, that his operation had been cancelled. Just wonderful. All happening outside a church. Another occasion, traveling to Poland and going down to the Czech border, where my wife and I attended a school reunion, and there was a party going on, and we offered to pray for the sick at this party. These people weren't people who went to church particularly. And the Lord began healing these people. The following day, we were taken to the home of a rich lady, a kind of a businessman's home in Oleśnica, in one of the cities of Poland there. And the Lord healed her in her legs. She began dancing around the room, so thrilled to be healed, even tried to even tried to pay me for the miracle, which of course I didn't accept. So we've just had a lot of fun in seeing God healing people outside of church, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be, isn't it? It's been a phenomenal journey. So many amazing things have happened. Probably the most astonishing miracles I've seen are where lumps or growths dissolve, and that's a truly awesome thing. I remember in the Brazilian city of Uberaba, where a lady had cancer in the stomach, and while I was preaching, it disappeared. It just dissolved. I didn't pray for her, she just showed me at the end. Similar thing happened here in England, down in Essex, where a lady had a growth in the back of her neck that simply dissolved while I was speaking. This is quite a common thing in England. Doesn't really happen in other countries so much, but in England it's quite common for me to be preaching, and just while I'm preaching or telling a few stories, God will begin healing the people all by himself. I won't need to do much more. And so it's fascinating to see that. I've seen people who are blind begin to see. I've seen a phenomenal amount of deaf people get healed. Recently had testimonies of people healed of epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, people healed of hernias, lots of things like frozen shoulders. Wonderful to see that miracle happen. I was in one place and a lady couldn't move her arm. She'd actually had a stroke. And I got all the young people together. I said, how many of you want to see a miracle? They went, yeah. So they all crowded to the front. And being a bit daring, I said, now this lady's going to be healed in front of you. And praise God, she was. They just went crazy. And I was kind of relieved, of course. So God has just done some extraordinary things. People healed of things like allergies. One lady healed of allergies to pets. Another precious person healed of agoraphobia, and into the realm of healing of the mind and healing of the emotions. But by far the most exciting thing for me is when God heals the people just while I'm talking without me having to do anything. It shows, doesn't it, that it's God's work rather than mine.